Hey everybody, here I am in my basement here in Moorhead, Minnesota, and with another one of my board game musings type thing. You might be watching this on the Gray Fox Games channel. You might be watching this on the Undead Viking Videos channel. Regardless to where you might be watching it, it would be super cool if you take this time to subscribe, like, do whatever. But anyway, on to the commentary of what I wanted to talk about today. So I have noticed, and this isn't going to be like some mind-blowing, oh my gosh, it's amazing that you thought of that. This isn't going to be anything like that. But after being part of board game publishing for almost, well, just about a decade, I don't remember the exact day that I got, I think it's over 10 years. I don't remember the exact day that I got hired by Tasty Minstrel Games, but it was 10 years ago. I left, and this is a little bit of a recap, but I left my career that I had in banking, and I know banking, but it was more of a customer service slash project manager type of job that I did. Regardless, I left that job to join board game publishing a little over 10 years ago. And since then, I have noticed a lot of different changes in the publishing atmosphere and a lot of different there's been, like, undercurrents and overcurrents, if you will, of what people are looking for and what people like. And I'm going to mention some publishers in this particular video. This is not meant to either glorify or condemn any publisher. As a publisher myself, I really don't feel it is it would be incredibly, I don't know, disingenuous on my part, because of the fact that I think that there's a lot of board game publishers out there right now. I think they're all doing a really, really great job. I think they're putting forth the work and the effort and the passion to make these items. And whereas, we're doing just the same thing at Gray Fox Games. And I think that the board game world is still a very friendly world. Publishers are friends with some of my best friends are like technically competitors, if you will, that publish board games as well. The nice thing is that we don't really, I don't think we really feel, at least I know I don't. I know my bosses at Gray Fox Games don't feel either way. We don't feel like we're trying to take money out of another publisher's pocket. The pool of customers is still very full, and we create the games that our fans like, and other publishers create games their fans like, and sometimes the pools of water intermix, and that's cool. It seems like everybody's doing just great. But regardless, I'm going to be talking about some publishers here, and I want to make sure that that this is not meant as any kind of a slight or a me kind of looking down my nose at anybody else or whatever. That being said, that's like, I'm not doing this, but anyway. So that being said, I have noticed a very relative small change going on, and I think it's going to head in that direction more and more. And in some cases, it's not really even a small change. Starting, like, I'm going to guess, and again, you're going to have to like go back to like, and like this in my mind, this was like the first really big campaign that did something like this. And this was Cool Mini or Not, when they did their first Zombicide game. And it was one of those games where when Cool Mini or Not did it, they had a situation where it was like, oh, look, this stretch goal was met, so this cool new figure was added, and this stretch goal was met, and this cool figure was added, and then this expansion was added, and so on and so forth. And there, eventually, what happened was, and that was a very successful model for them, and in a lot of cases, it's still very successful today. That model was emulated by a lot of publishers. A situation where it's like, here's this base game, but here's these 4 expansions. And then if we reach this goal, there will be a 5th expansion. If we reach this goal, there will be this alternative art expansion. If we reach this goal, you're going to get these models. And if you reach this goal, you're going to get this scenario added, and so on and so forth. And eventually what happened is that we had campaigns that, when they arrived at your door, you had this box that was a base game, and then you had like 8 7, 6, 10, whatever extra boxes of stuff that you got with it, and it was a great value. I like for I play Blood Rage. Blood Rage. I I've talked about the fact that I'm getting rid of most of my collection, and I am getting rid of most of my collection. I have like my old all in of Blood Rage. That is a game that still hits the table. And I'm glad that I own all the extra stuff that Blood Rage has. And I think that, and I like that. Um, there's other games as well that like I own all of the stuff for that will stay in my collection. For example, to date, I own everything of Cthulhu Wars, and I really like that game. And that is a game that I will have all of that stuff in my collection. And I'm glad I have that. But as I've said before, space and time kind of like works against you as a board game player slash collector. As you gain more and more stuff to add to your collection, you run out of stuff for places for that stuff. You end up renting a storage unit like I do. That costs me a not small amount of money to have every month to store extra stuff that isn't readily available for me, and it needs to get out of there. It needs to be gone because there's no point in me having all that extra stuff. And I think what we have a situation is that at the peak moment, and I still think that the interest in designer board games is still climbing. And I say designer board games, non-mass market. I think the interest in designer board games is still climbing. It isn't climbing the exponential rate that it was. There was kind of like a golden age, and if you talk to publishers, and fans of the hobby as well, generally thinking, 6 years ago or so was like kind of this golden age of board games where you like everybody was discovering the hobby. They were discovering what they liked about it. They were picking up those games. They were trying to find those games. They were trying to play those games. And so you had a situation where you could hit crowdfunding or release a new game, and the response to it was very rabid. Now, as the people, and this happens to everybody. It isn't just board games. It happens to anything, any kind of hobby or situation. Like, people that get into aquariums or people that get into music or Legos or whatever. You get into it, and at the very beginning, there is literally like it's a giant smorgasbord of things that you can have, and there's no way for you to really tell or know exactly what it is that you want to eat. And so you start trying a little bit of everything. And eventually, after you've tried everything, you start kind of funneling yourself into the spot that you want to be in. Like, for example, this is before I was married, before I had children, in my apartment, I had several aquariums. I think I had 6 or 7 at one time, and each one had its own little habitat. Each one had its own thing, and I really enjoyed the hobby. And then, but as time went on, I was like, this is kind of bothersome. I didn't really like it as much. And eventually, what happens, and you can't see it, but I have a 150-gallon aquarium over there that actually only has a handful of fish in it, but it is more of like a habitat. It is something that I've just really enjoyed. And I'm not going to go into my aquarium, but it's like I've taken all those aquariums, I've gotten rid of all that stuff, and I've just got the one. I got the one that I maintain, the one that gives me joy. And I think that has a lot to do with also my board games. Same thing I'm doing. I'm shrinking down my collection. I'm finding the stuff that I play, the stuff that I actually enjoy. Instead of consuming and owning everything, I am trying to get down to just the stuff that I'm actually going to use to save my space, to save my money, and to save my sanity in a way too. So all that is being said because there has been a radical change, in my opinion, or the beginnings of a radical change, I should say. Two things happened recently for me. One, I got my all-in pledge, and I very rarely back Kickstarters anymore. The most of the Kickstarters I back, or GameFound or BackerKit or whatever, most of the ones that I back are the ones that are role-playing game associated. That is, I've not that I've given up on board games. I love board games, but probably because of the fact that I work with them and I'm playing them as far as my job goes, my passion for recreational board gaming is less. But my passion for playing role-playing games has steadily increased over the last 5, 6 years. And so those are kind of, and to no end, like I used to back I used to back board games. I mean, I don't know how many, I've backed way too many. I was going through my Kickstarter pledges and it's just so many. But now it's mostly role-playing games. But fairly recently, I did back Andromeda's Edge. Peter is the owner of the company, is a good friend, somebody I've worked with, somebody I've talked to on numerous occasions. He's just a good dude. And plus, like Dwellings of Eldervale is one of those games that will always, I'm never going to get rid of that game. I really enjoy it. I really love it. It's going to stay in my collection, until a point where like my kids sell off everything I own because they put me in the loony bin. But I backed Andromeda's Edge because, it had a good pedigree and I knew it was going to be good. But here's the deal. It had an all-in pledge, and the all-in pledge was that game. And here, I'm just going to kind of show you the box here. And that was kind of the reason. So this one box is Andromeda's Edge. That's it. It even says all in, as you can see on the side there. It says all in. And I love that. I love the fact that there's some extras and stuff that'll go in the main box. I thought the packing for that was amazing. I thought they did a really good job. But that's it. That's my game right there. And that's all I have. Now, and I think I really like that. Now, secondary to that is I got my shipping notification for Trudvang Legends from Cool Mini or Not. Now, again, I realize there's going to be a disparity between these two representations here, but Trudvang Legends, the base game was delivered a while ago, and I played it, and I really, really like it. I love it. Minis are beautiful. The storyline is great. The mechanics of the game work wonderful. It's a fun game to play. But the extras took a little longer to get here. I'm going to get all of the extras that I was going to get for my all-in pledge that I placed, and they're arriving today. But it's going to be more stuff that I don't have room for. And it's one of those things where even though I really, really like Trudvang, there is a really, really good chance that I'm going to end up getting rid of it, or in either by selling it to somebody, trading it to somebody, probably not trading, but or cannibalizing all the miniatures out of it to use in role playing, and then just getting rid of everything else. Like, I mean, sadly, throwing it away, or trying to repurpose it or recycle it if I can. Now, why is that? It's just because it's too much. It's too much stuff, and that's kind of what I think a lot of people are going towards now. It seems to me like, for example, I did an all-in of Stellaris. That is a game that is coming very soon. But it's going to be so many pieces. I mean, when I backed it, which admittedly, and this is not a knock on Academy Games, and I know they've been working on it, making the game as amazing as they possibly can, and I realize that it's overdue, but that's one of those things. I don't really care. It's fine. I'll get it when I get it, kind of thing. And I think most backers are like that. I mean, but it's a thing where I know when I get that, the game will be amazing, but I also know it's going to be so much stuff I'm not going to have room for it. And then I'm going to end up in a situation like that. I'm going to play it once. I'm going to say, that's really amazing. Do I have room for it? Do I have room to get rid of 5 or 6 other games to keep this game in my collection? And I just probably won't. So I think that a lot of people like me who enjoy playing board games are also in that same kind of boat, where enough is enough. They have their 200, 300, 400 plus games in their collection. They're looking at the shelves on their wall. They realize just how much is there, and I think it's a thing of getting older too. And I'm not trying to say that young people don't like board games. I'm just saying that I think there's a lot of people that are in their 50s that are enjoying board games, that have been enjoying board games for 10, 12, 15, 20 years or whatever. And you've gotten to a point where it's like you start realizing that uh you're probably not going to live in the house that you lived in for the rest of your life. You kind of realize that like having all this stuff is kind of a burden on both you and your family. And you realize that it's kind of foolish to continue collecting it and continue because also as you get older, like maybe like the times you're able to get together and play board games on a regular basis also decreases. I mean, there's a lot of factors going on. But I think ultimately what I'm getting at here is that publishers are also recognizing the fact that those things exist, and the market for what we create is changing, and I'm there's always going to be a market for a giant crowdfunding game that has, 8 boxes of awesome that are coming to your house after you get it. There will always be that market. Don't get me wrong. You can see those things. They launch every month and they do very, very well. And the people that get those games love them and play them and they think they're amazing. But I think what's happening is that you'll notice that games that are kind of condensed, like Andromeda's Edge, like I just said, like a certain thing that's coming in the future from Gray Fox that are going to be condensed into one box, some sort of anniversary game that will be coming out for a long-standing game that's been around for a while that is very well regarded. Anyway, I'm kind of getting beyond myself here, but those are the things that I think people like. Like, give me one box that has all the stuff that I need to play this game. And yeah, that box might be huge, but it's one box and it's all contained in that one thing. And I don't have to have 6 or 7 little expansion boxes trying to figure out where they are, what they're doing. And when you have a game that, doesn't have 7 million miniatures, you can do that. Now I realize obviously if you like miniatures take space, whatever. So those situations you can never get past. I mean, I have the giant Cthulhu and you can't see it, but my giant Cthulhu is sitting over from Cthulhu Death May Die, in a focal point in my board game room here. This is my office slash gaming room, and I love that guy. I love that thing. I love having the giant Cthulhu in my room. But I mean, obviously, there's no way that's that box would be huge then. But I mean, Isoparian Guard is a really good game. And it's like, and I have it over there. Again, I'm pointing out things you can't see, right? But Isoparian Guard is over there for me, but it's a giant box. That box is ridiculous, and it is heavy, and it's amazing. But it's all one box. It's all one box, and I think that's what we're moving towards. I mean, I think people like that. Everything in one box, no weird storage solution after the fact. Get everything together and have it. I mean, for example, I mean, I'm kind of going off on a lot of different things here, and I do want your thoughts on this stuff, and tell me what you think as well. I mean, but no, I'll get to your thoughts the same. What I want to hear from you guys is that I do think that back in the day, if you will, like when Arkham Horror Second Edition came out, and then there'd be another box of like the exact same size as the base box that would come out, like Dunwich or I can't think of all the name. Miskatonic was an expansion. You know what I mean? Like there were expansions that added things to that. Battlestar Galactica, fantastic game, obviously. But like the expansions came in a box that was just the same size. And I guess technically you could just put all those boxes and they were right next to each other on your shelf and you could see them all together. But what I'm getting at here is that those particular boxes there was always meant to be an expansion, and the expansion was always going to be another box. And that stuff in that box was never going to fit in the box that it was before. It was its own kind of standalone thing for storage that wouldn't fit in the other one. And I think we're getting away from that. And also expansions for games just don't really come out that often anymore. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it used to be back in the day, if you like, there was always like, and there's another expansion for, this beloved game that was out. And that was fine. We liked it. But now there's so many new games that are coming out that like it seems like expansions are few and far between. We're always moving on to the next thing. So it's odd. It's different. It's just not what I'm used to. And I kind of find it interesting. I kind of find it interesting that that's the way that the hobby is going. Again, these are just the ramblings of a madman in his basement while he was thinking of things this weekend, and I wanted to put them onto a video. And again, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I didn't look into any of this. I didn't write down any data or anything like that. This is just one of those gut feelings that I was having. But I want to hear from you. If you're watching this video, I want you to tell me, do you think that we're in a situation now where like we don't want that giant bloat? I shouldn't say bloat. Let's say because that obviously gives it a negative connotation, right? But I want to hear from all of you, the viewers. I mean, do you feel like we've reached a point where the desire for like a crowdfunding campaign that has, you know, 6, 7, 8 boxes all told, you know, like that, you know, like people, I mean, I remember like you remember like people would say, I got all my stuff, and there would be like 6 boxes sitting on their front steps because they had just gotten their all in for whatever game that they were getting. Do you think we're getting away from that? Do you think that now we're like the mood of the hobby is leaning more towards what can you do to save my space for me? Are we moving towards not having like a giant type of crowdfunding where it's just like here's, you know, like now crowdfunding is more of here's a base game and here's a bunch of stuff that goes with that base game and that's it? What do you think? I mean, why do you think there's changes that are coming up? What's driving those changes? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have a discussion with them. So leave those and then I'll answer those. And I try to respond to every single comment that I get. So please do that. But that was me thinking about the changes in crowdfunding and you know, and trying to answer the question, are the like, you know, the giant all-in multi-box crowdfunding campaigns on the waning? Are they going away slowly but surely? Let me know. Let me know what you think. Anyway, until next time, I'm Lance, the Undead Viking. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and we'll talk soon.